Hey. Welcome to episode 281 of Awkwardly Awesome Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Freeman, and today's episode is called The Essential Extra. The Essential Extra. In thinking about this subject before I bring on my guest, I felt so much pressure at times in my life to kind of blend in and not shine my full light. This is probably pressure I put on myself, but I was remembering with a friend earlier today that during college, I used to go to the grocery store late at night, and I would be just kind of disheveled and and I think I kind of looked like a bum, and with my speech impediment, I may have sounded like I was intoxicated, and somehow I was comforted by doing this because I thought I blended in. But mm, my guest today, among many things she'll talk about in her brilliance, reminds me yet again that how important it is to shine who we are and to step up and step into being essential in our life. So with that, let me bring on a guest today. But first, this.
Today's guest, Emily Magera.
Well, welcome to Awkwardly Awesome Podcast. Emily Magera.
Thank you. That was quite the introduction. And thanks for sharing that story, Jason. It was nice to hear and learn a little bit more about you. And yeah, that you've started shining your light through everything you do and through your podcast.
It's so simple to say, isn't it? Like, that we all should just shine our lights and embody our talents and fully step into who we are. But
Right.
what this is a huge question, but in your own experience, why have you found that to be like such a challenging thing to do?
Wow, we're going deep right away. I love it.
Yeah,
Um,
I hadn't expected this, but I
yeah.
guess we are.
I think that, you know, we get to this point, like you said in the opener, that we feel like we just want to blend in and we don't want to stand out. And I feel like I work with kids in the fine arts, middle school through college age, and I think I feel like it's maybe going away, but there's this shift that happens, between elementary and middle school where your individualism just kind of gets put on the back burner because you need to blend in and you don't want to stand out.
Mm,
And I think it's just from pressures from peers and, the world we're living in that it's better and it's cooler to be like everyone else. But I think for me, at least, when I then went off to college, I met so many people who were so comfortable in their own skin and
mm,
comfortable being silly and different that I started to be myself, and I realized nobody else cares about, what I am doing, so I might as like, everyone is just so focused on themselves, I should just live my life to its fullest, and and yeah, I mean, and I think that that's something that everyone has to go through in their own time, this realization. But yeah, once you start to see the purpose and the spark behind you and like what makes you unique, and once you start shining that, opportunities and joy just come out of everywhere.
You say you came to the realization that everyone is so focused on living their own life and taking care of their own needs that
Mhm,
I should just focus on being myself.
mhm. Yeah, I think so. I think we all think about ourselves way too much, if we're wearing the right clothes, do we have the right things? And all of those things at the end of the day really don't matter. It's the relationships, and to me, it's relationships and how you make other people feel that matter the most.
Hmm. We in my first question, we already got up to college, but might be going a little fast for an hour-long podcast. But so everyone listening, that was just a preview. Now let's go back in time. And what were the circumstances in third grade that your parents signed you up to
To
be
do
to try out for Honk?
Yeah, so the audition story for that is actually pretty interesting because the show in Aberdeen at the Aberdeen Community Theater was for primarily adults, but they needed 4 kid ducklings, and so they
Mm.
wanted 2 boys and 2 girls, and so my family had been out of town doing something, and we drove back to town, and my mom had a message on her voicemail because this was before we had cell phones or something like that, and my mom had a message on the answering machine that said, "Hey, Emily has done shows here in the past. We think she'd be a great fit in this show. If she would come to this audition on Sunday night, that would be awesome." And my mom told me, "Emily, we have this audition, you should go." And immediately, kind of like we were saying, I thought, "No, I don't want to go. I don't want to, put myself out there. I'm too nervous. I can't do it." And my mom, I don't know how she had the foresight to know to do this. She said, "Okay, well, you need," it's funny to think about now, but she said, "Okay, well, we need to go to the theater and you need to tell them that you are not going to audition." I said, "Okay, okay." And
Oh,
so
it's like, oh, mom, oh my god.
I know. And then I got to the theater and I was fully prepared to walk up to the director and say, "Hey, I can't audition." But then I saw my friend Kirsten, and Kirsten was there and I thought, "Oh, well, if Kirsten, like, I can't not audition if Kirsten's going to be doing it. Like, that would be embarrassing for me not to do it. If she's here and she's able to do it, I can get up on stage and sing too." And so I auditioned and I got the part, and Kirsten got the other girl duckling part. So we got to do it together. And from that one audition, that one time where I wanted to say no, 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 and I went for it, amazing things I never could have dreamed of happened.
That's an amazing. I'm glad you told the whole story because part of us that wants to say no, no, I couldn't. I'm too anxious. They won't want me. That part is very much alive in us, and your mom knew about that part, and she was sneaky.
She was, and it's so much easier to say, "No, I'm not going to do this. I'm just gonna stay at home." And so I don't know how my mom, thought, "Oh, well, if I just get her there, she might." I have no idea, but I'm so grateful that she did because, yeah, she was very sneaky, but she knew what she was doing.
Before we go any further, tell me about this place called Aberdeen. Like,
Aberdeen
where is it? Tell me about it.
Yeah, so Aberdeen, South Dakota is the 3rd largest city in South Dakota. We are in the northeast corner, so about a 30-minute drive north, you're in North Dakota, and about 6 hours north, you're in Canada. So that's pretty exciting. Right now, there's about 30,000 people who live here, so not super, super tiny, but not a thriving metropolis. And I've lived in Aberdeen most of my life. There are some fun facts about Aberdeen. One, and I think the most notable one, is that L. Frank Baum, who wrote The Wizard of Oz, lived in Aberdeen, South Dakota for a stint of time while he was writing it. So, because of that, we have Storybook Land, not to be confused with Storybook Island out in Rapid City. Two different things. I obviously think Storybook Land is better, but it's Storybook Land and the Land of Oz. So you walk through Storybook Land, you see the castle and the different nursery rhymes, and then we have a Land of Oz. So you walk through Dorothy's house that has a little tornado simulation, which I don't like to go into because I am too scared of it. It's really not scary, but it scares me. And then you walk out, and here you are in Munchkin Land, and you follow the yellow brick road all the way to the Wizard of Oz and his balloon ride that we have. So yeah, Aberdeen's great. I encourage everyone to come stop by.
In the Wizard of Oz, of course, has almost taken on a new life with Wicked and the Wicked movie, and it's
Absolutely.
amazing.
Yeah.
So that always is wonderful, and back to Honk. So you're out of town, you get home, your mom gets a message on the phone, you don't want to go, your mom kind of comes up with a way to inspire you to audition, you get the part,
Mhm.
then what happened? Is it like you just put on a few shows in Aberdeen and that's it?
Yeah, so the goal of the show was always to be the Aberdeen Community Theater's submission for the one act festival. And so just like other competitions, there's state, regional, national level competitions. So
Wow.
we knew that we were always going to compete with it. We never knew, how far we would get with it. And so yeah, it was a 60-minute show. Our everybody in the show had to fit in a 10-foot by 10-foot box before, and then they'd say, okay, go. And we'd go and do the show, and we'd end in that box again. And we competed at state, which was in Aberdeen, and we won state. So we were invited to regionals, which was in Missouri. So we packed up our set and everything, and we went to Missouri. And there I saw lots of different theaters. I went to my first presidential library, Harry Truman's presidential
Oh,
library. We ended up winning the competition there in Missouri. And so then we were invited to the national one act festival, and it's all these community theaters put on a one act. We're invited to the national level in Charlotte, North Carolina.
wow.
Pack up our bags, ride the bus out to Charlotte, and there at the national level we placed third, which is still isn't even I still have trouble to comprehend that we were the third best show in the entire United States of America. So that was just such a cool opportunity. And as a student, a young kid, I just wanted to see every show I could there because I just was able to be exposed to different types of theater. I remember I think then I was going into fourth grade, and I auditioned when I was in third grade. So now it's been fourth grade. And I remember Sweeney Todd, which is, the demon barber of Fleet Street. Probably someone my age should not have been seeing that show, but it was a musical and there weren't that many musicals at this competition. And so I remember begging my Mom, please let me go to Sweeney Todd. And I saw it, not what I was anticipating it to be at all, but the music was great and it was a show. And so I was exposed to so much at that festival. And so we placed third. And so we came back, we were all, ecstatic about that. And then we get a call from the World Festival of Children's Performing Arts, which takes place in Toyama, Japan.
Wow.
And because Honk is the story of Hans Christian Andersen's The Ugly Duckling. And so, out of all of the shows there, for the World Festival of Children's Performing Arts, you're not going to call up Sweeney Todd. They called up Honk. And hey, we would love for you to perform at this festival.
You're
And
not going to call
no, probably
Freeman.
not.
You're going to
No.
funny.
Yeah, and so we got the call and there was a little tension because, you know, our little ducklings, we started, like I said, I auditioned in 3rd grade, and now it's the summer, it's 4th grade, and we are invited to Japan the summer before my 5th grade year. And so it's like, we've all grown a little bit. Are we going to be able to go, or do you need to find other ducklings? And luckily our director Jim said we're keeping the original ducklings.
Mm,
So we all got to go to Japan, and
mm,
there, that was an experience I'll never forget, because not only was it just a totally different culture and environment, but again, I loved being exposed to theater from all over the globe. I mean, I saw some of the shows I really remember. I saw Cinderella by this group. I'm pretty sure they were from China. And
mm,
even though, you know, I couldn't understand a
mm,
single word they were saying, I knew the story of Cinderella. And you saw, you know, when she's in the clothes that she does her chores in. Then the fairy godmother comes out and she puts on her beautiful ball gown. You didn't need words to understand the story. You could see it
mm,
in the action and the, you know, the nonverbal communication they were
mm.
using. And yeah, just making friends with, you know, people from Toyama, from Argentina, and getting to explore the culture and see all of this different type of theater was just an experience that, as a young, you know, 5th grader, made a big impression on me, and truly is something that kind of springboarded my love for theater and desire to study it and learn it and perform it.
So this is a side note, but
Mhm.
I think it's important. What words of encouragement would you give to parents about offering the kids ideas of extracurriculars to participate in? And I mean, it can be tough because, like you say, kids can be resistant.
Yeah, I would say try everything. Try literally everything, because especially when you're young, because again, I remember when I became 7 and I could audition for the Young People's Theater in Aberdeen with the community theater. Again, shocker, I was nervous. And the first show I could have been in was Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And my
Mm,
sister was going to do it, and my friends were going to do it. And I said, ooh, no, I'm too scared. I'd rather watch my sister do it first, and then I'll do it. And so my mom, of course, she found something for me to do, and she said, okay, well, you're going to help paint the sets. And so I
mm,
got involved on the backstage side. And then I saw my sister do it. I saw how much fun she had, and I got involved. And same thing with sports. You know, I played one game of soccer. Wasn't really for me, soccer. My parents, that was probably pretty traumatizing for them because I just sobbed on the bench. And they said, "Nope, we're done we're done with soccer for Emily." But I played tennis, and that stuck with me. I still play today. I would say try everything. Don't feel like you need to fit in a box of athletics or only academics or only fine arts. I'd say try everything, because that just makes you a well-rounded human. You learn how to work with teams, you learn how to work with people who might not be just like you, and you can find really great friendships in those different activities.
As a kid, would you say you naturally tended more towards being shy or more towards being outgoing?
I think when I was comfortable with people and people I knew, I was outgoing, but I think I was a rule follower pretty. I mean, I'm sure my sister would say that I was not very quiet, but I think that I was kind of that introverted extrovert where once you knew me, I was excited and loud and, you know, was doing everything. But if I didn't know you, I'd, you know, follow the rules, stay quiet and keep to myself.
Interesting, interesting. So high school, you were in dance, the
Mhm.
plays, and then talk about college a little bit. What did you major in?
Yeah, yeah, like you said, I did dance and show choir and orchestra and tennis, and all of the shows in high school. And then I went to the University of Sioux Falls in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, go Cougars, for college. And I went in undecided because I had no idea what I wanted to do and be when I grew up. And I'm still trying to figure it out a little bit today. But I went in undecided and I was involved in the choir and I met a lot of really wonderful friends there and I auditioned and was in the shows. And a lot of my friends were theater majors or at least, studying theater. And it was after my freshman year's musical, which was Godspell, where I thought, I want to study this. I don't know if I don't know what I want to do with my life because thinking about that feels really intimidating. But I know right now in this moment that theater and acting, that's something I want to spend my time honing this craft, doing the work. And so, yeah, I majored in theater and I was involved in the choir program, the theater program. I had leadership positions in both. And so if you needed me at college, you could probably find me in the Jeske Fine Arts Center because that's where I spent most of my time. And I loved it. I loved college. I would go back and do it again. And yeah, I finished it. I finished it in a way that I was not anticipating. I graduated college in 2020, which was the pandemic. So I'll never forget senior year, went home for spring break. You're hearing these rumblings about this pandemic. The
Mhm.
last thing I remember hearing was they were thinking about at USF, they do the gauntlet. And so all graduates walk through and they shake all of their professors' hands. And I remember hearing a professor say, yeah, they're thinking about taking away the gauntlet at graduation
Mhm.
because of COVID. Well, then we all know what happened. We all were sent home and we stayed home and we didn't get any graduation, not even a gauntlet. So that kind of flipped everything because what I thought was going to happen, I had some friends, we had this plan, we're going to move out to New York City together. Well, that all just, you know, came crumbling down because everything was put on hold.
So, oh, for yeah, I mean, just like traumatic time for everyone because we're going through life and life is normal and suddenly surprise, surprise, something really new and really unexpected and wow.
Yeah.
So speaking of New York City, around this time, I think you said you had this interesting talk with a person who you haven't seen again, but that talk will kind of alter your life.
Yeah. Most definitely.
What was that talk about?
Yeah. So after when COVID hit, nothing was happening and I especially was not wanting to move to New York during that time. So
Good
I
call.
yeah, I think I made the right choice. So I stayed in South Dakota and I substitute taught for the Aberdeen and Sioux Falls School District. And while I was I was in Sioux Falls working with the musical at USF, I was having this conversation with this woman and we were just kind of talking about like, oh, what do you want to do? You have a theater degree, you're working with the musical right now. Do you want to go to New York? And I said something along the lines of, I don't know. There's this little voice in my head that would really like to go, but I'm pretty nervous. And, what if I fail? What if something horrible happens? All of these what ifs, what ifs, what ifs. And she kind of just stopped me and said, Emily, is your fear of what if, your fear of failure, is that, or what is your fear of what if greater than your fear of failure? Or basically, are you going to wonder your whole life, what if I would have moved to New York? What if I would have done this? Greater than your fears of what if you don't book a job? What if you lose all of this money? What if go out there and something happens? Is that going to hold more power? Or is the fear of, what if, what's gonna, what's gonna mean more to you? I thought, well, that totally shifted my whole perspective because I want to live a life that is full and is full of a lot of experiences and opportunities. And when she said, "Is your fear of what if greater than your fear of failure?" Well, yes, it was, because I just had this, I didn't want to live my life thinking, what if I could have done this? So
Hmm.
a few months later, here I am packing my bags and moving out to the city.
So Aberdeen's a town of 30,000. Suppose is 200 some odd thousand,
Yeah.
but nothing in either of those experiences prepares you for New York City.
No.
So first of all, what was it like just suddenly living in a massive place?
Yeah, it was an adjustment. So when COVID happened and I was substitute teaching, I was living at home. And so I saved up a lot of money. And so my plan was, okay, I have enough money to move out to New York City for 3 months. And if I don't work a single day, if I don't book a single job, I will be okay. And I think that having that flexibility and just took the pressure off of, I'm moving here, I'm staying here forever, I need to find something right away. Having that 3-month plan was really nice, but I mean, I'll never forget. I mean, I walked out of the airport and this big rain spout just like boom fell right on my shoulder, and I said, "Okay." My friend had told me, every day either you're going to win or New York is going to win. And that's some days you'll win, but most of the time New York's going to win. And I said, "Okay." I got out there once I got dripped on. I said, "Okay, New York, you're winning right now, but just wait. I'm still coming. I'm still going to, give my best shot." But it was just totally different than I expected. I became more comfortable just hanging out and doing things with myself. But then I learned, you hear that the people in New York are so mean and nobody wants to talk to you, but they do actually. They want to people want to share their information, and the people out there, they want to help each other succeed, which I think was the thing I was least expecting. I thought everyone out there would just kind of be out there for themselves, making it work for them. But, when I booked my first job out there as a background on a TV show, I was going to the COVID test for that because we had to get COVID tested before we filmed. And, someone said, "Where did you book this job? What site did you book this job from?" And I said, "Oh, I booked it on this one." And he said, "You should check out this other site." And so I got home, I logged on to that other site, and boom, I had like 3 more jobs within that one day. And I thought,
Hmm.
and then every other time everyone was helping each other out, especially someone
Hmm.
so green like I was. They were helping because they want other people to succeed.
What was the very first job you booked?
So the first job I booked was as a background actor on The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. And then that became a pretty steady gig, but it was on the way to the COVID test that then I found out about this other website, and in that next day I booked Gossip Girl as a background and Bull on CBS. Both shows I hadn't really watched, but I was mostly excited about The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel because that's one of my all-time favorite shows.
Oh, so you were on more than just Miss Me.
Yes.
Wow.
Mhm.
So, and I mean, I mean, and there's a lot in your story about kindness, like it was kind of whoever the director was to call your mom and say, "Oh, we're looking for actors for Honk,"
Mhm.
and kind of this woman you don't know anymore of saying what are you going to value more? Like either trying it or staying put and not having the chance of failure. And there was kind of this person saying, "Oh, by the way, try this website." That's really neat.
Yeah.
So so what's your first day? Is the first show you got on was Miss Maisel, eh?
So technically, that was the first show that I booked a job for, but then my first filming day was for Bull.
What
Yeah.
was your first filming day like?
That well, or was it Gossip Girl? I can't remember. But I mean, I remember. Oh, yes, I do. Okay. So it was Bull. Bull was first. And then the next day was Gossip Girl. It was back to back. And I remember showing up. And on some shows, you'll have to get a costume fitting. And like Maisel, we all wore costumes. But most shows, if it's taking place in the current timeline, they just say, bring in these types of clothes. And so I like packed up a carry-on size suitcase and brought it with me because I wanted to present options. And someone told me, he said, oh, this must be one of your first days doing background. And I said, oh my gosh, yes, it is. How did you know? He goes, you brought the big old suitcase. You just need to bring a few options. You don't need to bring your whole closet. I thought, oh, got it. Note taken. But yeah, I mean, you check in. Then we sat in holding. We ended up sitting in holding a lot, which was the room inside because we were filming outside. I walked my whole suitcase over to the costumer and I showed them my different options. And then they said, actually, what you're wearing is fine. We're just going to give you a scarf. Okay.
Actually, what you're wearing is
Yep.
fine.
Great.
Mm.
So I got a red scarf. And then we went outside and I remember texting my parents and said, oh, this guy is directing it. Apparently it's a big deal. And obviously it's not a very big deal to me anymore because and I still don't remember who the director was, but my parents said, "No way, this guy's directing you. That's awesome." And I said, "I don't know who this person is, but I guess he is. He's a little important." So yeah, I remember my scene. I was sitting on a bench and the main crew or the main actors walked past me and I just, was sitting on the bench making fake conversation with this other background actor. And then, we'd run it take after take after take after take. And it was February, so it was still a little chilly outside,
Mhm.
which wasn't super desirable, but we were able to go into holding a few times. Then we went into holding for lunch. And then we went back outside and we did this shot where I was walking. And so we did that, just walk, walk, walk. Okay, reset. Walk, walk, walk. Okay, reset. And then there was one other scene we did that day. And then I remember again, it was my first day. And so you're booked for 10 hours. And we were called at like 6 a.m. And so I was thinking, okay, well, 10 hours, that'll probably be around like 4 or 5-ish if you include lunch. Okay, not too bad because I had Gossip Girl early the next day. Well, then they kept us there until, like 10 o'clock at night. It's
Holy cow.
like, oh my gosh, this day is really long. But yeah, I mean, that was my first glimpse. I mean, I feel like I got a great first look at, okay, like you got to get there early, you sit and you wait, and then they're probably going to keep you past the time they book you for. But yeah, it was great. And on that day there were so many extras. There wasn't a ton of conversation happening in the holding room. There were little things here and there, but nothing like I had experienced then on Mrs. Maisel.
When you told the story, it occurs to me like when I watch a movie or a TV show, it just all seems it's so easy to watch that is like I have no appreciation of the 14 hours or whatever. It's a lot of work being in a TV show. A lot of work.
A lot of work, yeah, especially on The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, where they're kind of famously known for their oneer shots, where it's, the camera doesn't cut to this camera angle. It's just all in one take. And there were a few where we did I mean, there was one long one and we were all kind of placing bets. Okay, how many takes do you think we're going to do on this oneer? And I remember we did 17 takes
Oh
of
my
this
god.
shot. I mean, that was
Oh,
all morning for this one clip. Typically,
holy.
typically we would be filming a 1 hour episode for 3 weeks. That's how long it would take to get everything. So it is pretty wild that I mean, and I understand it's something permanent's going to be out there forever. You want to put your best work forward, but it's a long time for a 1 hour TV show.
Did you say typically a 1 hour TV show would take 3 weeks?
That was on The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Yeah.
Wow.
Mhm.
Wow.
Mhm.
So let's flash forward for a sec. W- so you gave a TEDx talk. In the TEDx talk, you talk about becoming essential, and the idea came to you when you were filming Miss Maisel. Like, how did the idea of going from extra to essential come to you on the set?
Well, actually, the idea came a little bit later after I was in New York and I came back to South Dakota. I started a graduate program at Gonzaga in communication and leadership studies, and it was in those classes that I heard bits and pieces that reminded me of my time on set, and I thought, "Oh, you know, I was doing these things on set, making more being inviting myself to do more than what was asked without anyone asking me to, which with that, and now I have this theory to back it up." And so while I was on set, I was watching and learning with the people around me, and I saw that, they were, yes, your direction is to just sit in your desk. And okay, on those first few days, that's what I did. But I was always watching the people around me because this was all still very new to me. And I saw, oh, people, you can move, you can have a little bit more freedom than just doing what they tell you have to do. So that's where in my TEDx talk, I talk about 3 different types of communication that you see on set, and one of them is the ping pong method where, you tell me something, but I'm gonna give you a response that's just a little bit different back. And so if the instruction is to sit at your desk and read the papers, the ping pong response might be, well, I'm gonna sit at the desk, read the paper, see something interesting in the paper that makes you pick up your phone and make a phone call just to help
Mm,
give the scene a little bit more of a
mm.
heartbeat, because I'm not just a background character who's stagnant. I am playing a character who has motivations and instincts and a reason to be in that office. So I might as well be working and finding things for my character to do.
In life, we're given all kinds of, basic instructions. I guess I love I don't guess, I know in life we are given all kinds of basic instructions. I love the idea of getting the instruction, following it, but also being like, what else can I do that would enhance this instruction?
Right. Where have you
Well,
done that in your life, Jason?
I would have to think about that. A real basic example is also back during the pandemic. I'm a motivational speaker and suddenly inspirational speaker, and suddenly that business kind of dry up. So the guy I work with said, "Hey, yeah, it's probably time to start a podcast like we've been talking about," and I was resistant, but follow the instruction, and from that simple instruction, both I and he like keep expanding what the podcast is.
And it's so funny that you say that your first thought was, "No, no, I don't think so." And then look
Mm.
at you're 281 episodes in now.
Yeah,
It's pretty
yeah,
incredible.
it occurs to me when you say that the instructions we get aren't just for ourselves. They're not just to prove we can do the things. The instructions we get and follow and add to are like for ourselves, but they're also for the people around us. Because you added to the instructions you were given, now every time someone watches the final season of Miss Maisel, they get a benefit from that.
Mhm.
What has this idea of adding to instructions given you in your personal life as you've gone on
Yeah.
from New York?
I think it's to bring more to bring more than what's asked. And so with everything I do, I want my work to be done well. And, all of the students I work with, I want them to not only perform well, but be more confident with that. And so that just means giving little pieces of extra work that's not giving pieces that are extra, not really in the job description, that go the extra mile. And for me, it's to make then the students that I'm working with feel seen as more than just the talent they bring to the stage. Before this, I'm a choreographer for show choirs. And so we're doing middle school show choir camp this week. So it's a lot of fun. So I had camp this morning and I'm really trying to learn the students. I have 98 kids in a group.
Wow.
So it's huge. I don't know how we're going to fit them all on stage. We're going to make it work. And so I'm really trying to learn their names and, learn something about each of them. And so there was one girl wearing, a Wicked shirt. So I said, "Hey, oh my gosh, what's your favorite song from Wicked?" Just to make them feel seen and that there's something we have in common. And so again, that's not, I'm called to do show choir camp to create choreography and teach it, not exactly build relationships, but I know that it'll be more meaningful for the student to have this connection. And it makes me feel good to then have that connection with those students as they then grow. And it's more meaningful for me because then as I see them as a fourth grader, I know I'm going to watch them then become a middle schooler and a high school in show choir, and I'll have that full evolution of them and help them grow into who they're supposed to be.
I love that Wicked example, not only because it's a great callback to Frank Baum, who you were talking about earlier, but because it doesn't take all day to do the extra thing, like like it took you less than a minute to make that connection with
Mhm.
that goal, and yet it's important to her.
Absolutely. And I think that everyone has and can make more of an impact than they think. Because I remember when I was younger, anybody who's older than you is already 10 times cooler than you. I just am inspired by everyone who has lived more life than me because they have so much wisdom they can share with me. And I know that when you're young like that, if someone who is in a position of power, it does have some authority, them making you feel seen matters so much. And that was a big piece of my TED Talk too. When I was on set as a background actor, one of the principal characters came over and introduced himself, shook our hands, and just would converse with us and talk to us. And that made us feel so important and so essential to the scene. And that had a big impact on me and the work I did. So now as I'm back in South Dakota, I'm trying to do that here too.
So what was what inspired you? You went to New York like you were really highly successful, very very quickly. what inspired you to say I choose the path of going back to Aberdeen?
Yeah. It was a tricky decision, especially because I booked this, core ensemble member on The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. I was working consistently for Mrs. Maisel. I'm eligible to join the Screen Actors Guild. I had all of this happen really, really fast. People are saying, "Why would you go back? That seems like you're stepping backwards in this acting career of yours." And I think for me, I knew I felt like I could make more ripples in the water. I could make a bigger impact back home. And also my family is here. I love Aberdeen. I'm a champion for this community.
Mm.
And I have some family members who are growing a little older, and I wanted to make sure I spent great and quality time with them. And so I think that those were the two main things that really drew me back here. And, I still love New York, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't think about moving back every single day. Um,
Oh, wow.
but I think that right here, and especially like some interactions I had with kids even this morning at camp, it's like, oh yeah, working here with these kids in the fine arts, this is where I'm supposed to be and who I'm supposed to be working with.
I mean, it's a goosebumpy. Speaking of ripples, it's a full circle thing. Like your the director of Honk
Mhm.
gave you an opportunity that expanded your world immeasurably, and now you're able to give all kinds of opportunities to all kinds of students. Right now, 100 students, in fact.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're trying to fit on one stage. That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'm proud of them. It's really rewarding to do that, and I talked about before giving my TED Talk, I've been working in the backstage for a long time, and like I was nervous about getting on stage because normally all of my work is done, with them. I'm standing center stage teaching the choreography, but then when the pressure is on, I go and sit in the audience and I just get to cheer them on. And so during my TED Talk, I thought, "Oh geez, this is the first time in a while that I will be the one on stage with the lights on me." And so, I mean, I felt those jitters again, but those jitters were those good kind of nerves that help you feel alive.
Hmm. Those good kind of nerves that help you feel alive.
Yeah.
And then how does Gonzaga enter the story?
Yeah. Great question. I just graduated a few weekends ago with my master's
Oh,
degree.
first of all, how do you say it again? I didn't say it right.
You said it right, Gonzaga.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yes. You'll hear on the news or on ESPN, they always say Gonzaga, but it's not Gonzaga, it's Gonzaga. So that's something they told us right when we got to campus. They said, "Don't listen to those people on the news." But I came back from New York City and I was working with musicals. I was getting back into the groove, and like I said, in New York, either New York wins or you win. And every day had its own challenges. I mean, even getting to set, it was like a math equation because, okay, if my call time is 5:30, then I need to be walking. I need to be on the subway by probably 4:30, which means I need to be walking at about 4:20, which means I need to wake up it was all a big math equation. And so,
And very little sleep too.
yeah, yes, yes. And so I thought I need some kind of challenge back home in South Dakota. And earning a master's degree had always been something that I knew I wanted to obtain at some point in my life. I didn't know when or if, and what to study was a big thing I wasn't quite sure on. But once I moved back, kind of got in the swing of things, I was looking at programs, and I really loved my communication classes in college. Like I said, I majored in communication studies and theater with a music minor from USF. And Dr. Nassif, our communications professor there, had an interesting way of teaching communication, but I was just so drawn in. And I realized
Mm.
through my master's program that what I thought communication was just basically how we speak to each other and how we interpret and send messages. There is so much more to the field of communications and leadership, especially. And so I started that program in March of 2024, and I graduated in May of 26. And I'm so proud of the work I did. And my TED Talk was the capstone project. So kind of drew everything that I had learned together. And I'm very proud of that capstone. And I was excited to celebrate a few weekends ago in Spokane, Washington.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm intrigued. Like, it seems pretty daring to say I'm going to do a TEDx talk for my capstone. Do you think about, like, what if I don't get this talk, or
Yeah.
did you just, oh, how did that go?
Yeah. I'll never forget. I went to the TEDx talks in Sioux Falls in 2025, and I thought I would love to do that. And then as I was thinking about my capstone, I thought a TEDx talk would be a great, really cool capstone. And I told my advisor and professor for the class, I said, I think this is my idea. And she said, well, Emily, that's very competitive. I
Hmm.
mean, and so she was kind of, she was being very realistic. And I said, yes, I know it's competitive. And so my backup plan, if I did not get in, I was still going to prepare the talk. And that's what my advisor recommended I do, because I thought, well, if I don't get in, should I totally 180 do something different? And she said, no, you seem very passionate about sharing this message of from extra to essential. I would still create it and then find somewhere else to give the talk. And so I had some groups of people in mind who I could present to. And thankfully, I got the TEDx talk and I was able to be in that lineup. And from that, I'll be giving a talk like that at the back to school session of in service for the teachers in the Aberdeen school district.
Hmm.
And so if I didn't get the TEDx talk, my goal was then hopefully to still be sharing that message. And I'm glad to say that I still will get to be throughout the summer.
I was lucky enough to be in the audience when you shared the talk. Great talk. And
Thanks.
this is important. When you talk briefly about your footwear when you gave the TEDx talk.
Oh, my footwear, yes. I wore, thinking of what to wear, that was when I first heard that I was giving the TED Talk, I I was very excited, and then I was very nervous because I thought,
Mm.
"Oh, geez, now I actually have to do it." And the first thing my sister Katie said to me when I told her that I got it, she said, "Oh my gosh, Emily, that's so exciting. What are you gonna wear?" And I said, "I don't even know what I'm gonna say." So I ended up wearing all black, but then I wore a pair of red little heel shoes because I thought, "Oh, those are fun," and they match the red of the TED. But then, it's kind of the Wizard of Oz is kind of like a thread that just is woven all throughout my life. And so I think that I wore the red shoes not to be symbolic, not intentionally symbolic, but I think there is a message of there's no place like home in my story, and you can always find your way back home, just like Dorothy and her ruby red slippers.
Wow. It's amazing how that all ties together.
Yeah.
Oh, just a few more questions. What 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 advice would you give any of us about, say we want to try a new thing, but then we're like, no, 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 and we're kind of doing that bow in our head.
Mhm.
What words do you have for us?
Yeah. I think I I mean, it's so much easier to say it than to do it, but do it. Try everything, and to not listen to the first voice in your head that says, "No, I'm not going to do it." And, I think that that voice of fear or worry or anxiousness in our head, it has a place, but I think, knowing, yes, I should do this, and not knowing when not to listen to that voice is important. And so a lot of the times, those things that we first say no to turn out being really, really beautiful, like my experience in Honk, like doing this podcast for you, Jason. I think just doing these.
I'm glad you said not like Miss Maisel. You said like doing my podcast.
Well, no, like you, I mean, the first thing when someone said we should do the podcast, and your first thought was, no, I shouldn't, I don't want to. But then here you are, 281 episodes in. I mean, these things that we first want, that we are scared of,
Hmm.
really can have the most joy and can bear the most fruit. And so I think just try everything, and to not, don't let the fear of failure scare you away from trying new things.
Don't let the fear of failure scare you away from your life.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
I just got that from what you said. Thank you.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, I want to be able to look back on my life when I'm, 80 years old and think, wow, I did all of those things. And as someone, I'm 28 right now, someone told me a few years ago, she said, I just want to make my 13-year-old self proud. And she said, I just want my 13-year-old self to think I'm doing really cool things. And when she said that, I thought,
Hmm.
yeah, that's,
Hmm.
I have little
Hmm.
pictures of myself when I was a little, toddler in my room, just to think of like, okay, that's still you, do these things to excite the little girl that's still in you.
Hmm. Do these things to excite that's amazing. Great advice. And last question I ask all my guests is, what does doing your imperfect best mean to you? To
Doing my
me, doing your imperfect best.
hmm. I like how you word that. I think to me, doing my imperfect best means showing up, even if you're scared, and learning as you go. I think as long as you're doing the best you can and you feel good about it and you're proud of yourself of the accomplishments. I've done a lot of things that have not been the best work, but I look back and think, wow, I'm proud of myself that I did that. I think that's my imperfect best.
Really well said. Really well said.
Thanks.
Any last words you want to leave the audience with?
I think I've said, I mean, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but try new things, put yourself out there, and don't listen to that voice that is scared. Be confident, be you. You're loved just the way you are. And I'm so happy to have had this time with you, Jason.
Wonderful. Yeah, I'm happy to get to talk with you and to share this with the Ugly Awesome tribe. Thank you so much for being here, and please hang on the line for a sec as
Will
I
do.
wrap things up.
You got it.
Is wasn't it inspiring to listen to Emily and how she's created so many amazing things in her life, and how those things ripple out to impact others. We, Emily's story reminds me that we are here to help each other and inspire each other, and to become more and more together. Remember, you are you are essential. May you bring more and more of that essential nature in your essential brilliance to light each and every day. Thanks for being you. Please tune into another episode next week, unless you're watching this 1,000 years from now, and then you'll probably need to watch reruns. And remember, you are the best and only one of you in the world. So thanks for being you. And smile.